New fastest lap for you. Just set your fastest lap of the session.
Craig Walter said, "Hola, have we cracked into 14s? I'm having to steal my Wi-Fi since I lost my house." Craig Walter said, "You're muted."
In this live stream for like half an hour. Hopefully you can listen to me now. Can you? Hopefully you can. I said a lot of things. My bank account's PIN code.
Craig Walter
Many things were
said,
said.
"There we go, I can hear you."
Good. So I was saying that house is gone, so there's no need to worry about that anymore. The bank will have to figure out, not you. How about the Corvette? How's that going? Maybe you can win back the house. But not yet, not yet. I'm still picking up the pace. I haven't broken down to the 15s yet. So it's still like releasing some tensions of the muscles, I guess. It's like this corner was garbage.
Craig Walter said, "Going to double down tonight."
Man, that's it, like, that's it. You only live once, you know? Why have all the money if you can bet it? You can YOLO it on a YouTube stream, like. Okay. Oh, tiny off track. I have to slow down further on the entry of the corner. In this one I have to point straight here. Once I get here I have to turn in. I cannot let this snap happen, which means I have to be like softer on the throttle. Patient. Alright, let's see if this lap now we can break under the 15 or under the 16s. Okay, 15 some. Gotta go early on the gas. Gotta trust the grip. Ouch! Again, gotta be more patient on the gas. More like
Craig
this,
Walter
see?
said, "Did you already have school tonight?"
No. The coaching? No. At 11. Let's try not to get an off track this time. Good, good, good. Stay, 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 stay. Okay, you see? None of tracks are beautiful.
Craig Walter said, "Good, I like the training sessions. I also want to see his reaction to your straight line downshift."
He might not notice it because only if I lose time. But I'll call it out. I'll call it out. So I think now we're breaking under the 16s, even with this garbage last
Just
corner.
take your fastest lap of the session.
Let's see if we can go further. Let's compare all-time best. Now we're gonna start like digging to what we've done yesterday. No. Ah, okay, okay, too early there. I was a tiny bit too anxious on the throttle, tiny bit. Too much, too much, too much. I think you can do it. I think you can break under the...
That was your fastest lap of the session.
You see, like this session, even if the off track was already the fastest of the session. The problem is, like, if I don't brake hard enough the right way on the beginning of the corner, I get into the mid corner too fast. At least for me, or not with enough rotation. So then it takes me time to go on the throttle, and then I lose all this time. Maybe less on the brakes here. I could have trusted a little bit more the grip, I didn't. Okay, now let's put the car on the line. 2 laps to get our fastest lap, okay? If I don't get my fastest lap in 2 laps, Craig's gonna give away his Corvette. The only reason why I would not give away my Corvette is because I don't have one. I'm still confident. I still think we have like a faster rest of the track. Like faster than this. So... And we have 2 attempts, so... Okay, we just threw away our first attempts, I guess. We got an off track, so... Have you cleaned up the car yet or not?
Craig Walter said, "It's shiny, ready for marketplace."
Nice. If I were you, I would like get it a little bit dirty so we can lower interest, you know? Maybe nobody will want it. Maybe we can buy it back. If it's too clean, if it's still like looking too fancy, you're gonna lose more money. I wanted to try this. Okay, it didn't work. So 1 more lap. Let's see this one, okay? That's the second one. So... I was hopeful this exit would be good, so wasn't. But I still think we can do it. Like, this next corner is one that I have a lot of time to gain, so I cannot lose time here. Too early on the gas, okay. Not gonna lie, I don't think the situations look good for you, Craig. But I still believe we can do this, okay? Now I'm gonna push. I'm gonna overdrive the car. I'm gonna try my best to save your Corvette. Okay, it's not looking good at all. And it's looking even worse now, but maybe a miracle. Who knows?
Craig Walter said, "I guess the cat will have to go next."
No, not the cat. I cannot be responsible for that. You have kids though, don't you? Like, maybe you're just getting rid of liability, you don't know. You never know what they can do. Keep the wife. Keep the cat. Okay, we have 10 minutes to go. And I did want to show you a couple things. What's gonna happen? Oh, we crashed. I think I missed my braking marker. But it's still, like, I think today we were able to do 15.5 with an off track and 15.8. So we do have to work a bit more. I wonder if they're right track conditions or if I messed it up again. So let's see. Because that could be like a thing too. So teams, let's close this for now. So
Craig Walter said, "You seem more consistent and confident with the track, so that SA plus."
yeah, but I think still like I'm not happy. I was expecting to pick up better. No, the same track condition, you see. This was the fastest with and off track. But I think same track conditions. 22 point. Yeah, which is disappointing. A couple of things I want to show. First and foremost, for those who are here during the 24 hours of Spa, I bought some stuff on my store. And I got it. So I want to show you guys. So, and I'll show the store as well, because I think we have cool stuff there. And I need money to keep buying cars and tracks. So, otherwise my wife's gonna sell me. I don't know if she's gonna make any money, but. So this is on Redbubble, and I'll put the link. I think this is the mouse pad. Let's see. It actually looks super cool. You can't win the race in T1. I still keep losing it there. I have a t-shirt like with every single wart. Let me put this here for now where my mouse goes, but I'm gonna use this on my desk. Then I bought this, which I don't remember what it is. So let's see. 5 items if you're asking yourself. Oh, this is super cool. This is a notebook. The same t-shirt I'm using right now. Don't sell my rig for what I said it cost. It's actually cool. So it's actually cooler than I thought. Like it's just like this. On the back is dark, on the front is like this, and it's good. Like it's good. It's a good notebook. So you are gonna stay here for now. This is just paper. Okay. And this, I think this is a mug. We bought 2 more things that I don't recall. So there's more to around.
Craig Walter said, "The notebook is cool."
Yeah, the notebook's cool. Cooler than I thought. I thought it was cool, but like looking at it in person, it's cooler. This is like all of us. This is a mug. It says, "Came to race clean, lost iRating and saved rating." Welcome to my life. Those are the things that came in this shipment. So there's another one. Is there anything else here? No. So I have to bring this stuff, put the trash out after the session. But I really like, so the one that I like the most is the notebook, for sure. It looks super cool. How many pages? Maybe like the traditional 96 pages? Size of the steering wheel, if you're asking. If you're not asking, then like now you know. I think so. It's traditional, like 96 pages. Definitely gonna use these maybe for work. I want to bring these things to work. So that was one thing that I want to show. And in case you were asking, maybe you're not, but in case you were asking, hey Alan, where can I buy all this cool stuff? Because it seems like I hate my money. Where can I buy all? And 1 like? Come on, I'm gonna like myself with just double the likes. I put everything here, okay, on the description of the video. There's our Discord server, so you can join if you haven't yet. Exclusive products. This is our store, and I have these 5 arts here. Okay, Rakuten, thank you very much. I don't want to use right now. Okay, hide for now. We have these 5 arts. Just one more race. I bought a clock. It's gonna arrive. Don't sell my sim rig. I was faster in practice. I bought a pillow, a throw pillow. I think like a throw pillow like this one. I bought with this art. So I have these 5 arts here, and you can go and you have a bunch of products that you can buy. Let's like posters, mouse pads, throw pillows, hats, you name it. It's just like in the link or like from richrow.redbubble.com. You can find it there. I also added here a few more things. Throughline, that's the app that I built, free. It's just like I use for practice. Gianni couldn't send the IBT file, so I'm not using this time. But it's an overlay for you to use for practice. If you have like a reference lab and it's like breaking points and everything, like telemetry live, because you can only see telemetry offline. And then I have this Capital One Shopping and this Rakuten. I don't know how to say that. Referral links. These are just things that I use, like I personally use. So you go to a website, it gives you like some cash back. Capital One Shopping is going to give you gift cards, like money, so you can buy gift cards. I do actually have good money here. So let me see if I can open. My rewardings maybe? Yeah. I have these and I have more pending. I have like $30 pending and a referral pending. That's $80. So if you sign up for this and you buy something through the like extension, activating the extension, super easy. I make money as well and you make money as well. But you have to redeem through gift cards. If you like cash, then it's Rakuten. Reason I'm doing this is try to finance my hobby, right? So if you use any of these links, there's no cost to you. This still here. This is completely free, just like sharing. And this one is if you like the products. There is something else I want to show that I've been working on. This is just like for fun as well, which is I'm building a racing manager game. I hope you guys can see it. Let me make it bigger, maybe. Right now I have this race that you can choose. You choose like a team, and you have the weekend. So right now I only have the weekend race weekend, you see, and then you can like put them to go to the track. You see like increase front wing, and you can test things with the 2 cars, and like this will increase more and this will increase less. Gearbox is perfect, go second stint. The idea is you do like the practice stints, you find the ideal setup for your car, then you have the qualifies, you send the car on runs, you autoplay, you can speed it up, and then it's just gonna be like really qualify, and after Q1 is done, just like Formula 1, the bottom drivers are knocked out, then it goes to the second round. Let's send them with new tires on runs as well. We put qualifying here, send on runs. Let's see if they get good lap times. I've been loving like building this, to be honest. And then soft tires. Let me do this, see what happens. So okay, we don't have any time. So like with P3, P5, then you go to the race, and you basically do the same thing. And you can box, change tires. Strategy plays a role here. You choose the engine pace, like the power, the aggression, all of these things like increase accident risk and everything else. Anyways, if you like it, I'm gonna like when this is ready to play, I'm gonna put this in our Discord server. Yeah, and then I want to create like a career mode as well. This is gonna take a long time to build because I just realized it's so complex. But yeah, those are the things that I wanted to share with you guys before our session. And it seems like Gianni is ready right now. Let's put you down. Let me load my
Craig
lab.
Walter said, "You've been busy setting all that up."
Yeah,
Good evening, Alan. How
good
are
evening.
you?
Can you hear the right mic, or am I in the wrong mic?
Yes, I can. I
Okay.
can. I can. I can. It's good today. No issues.
Yeah,
But no, all good today. How are you?
I'm good. I was talking for half an hour in my stream with no volume, and then Craig told me like, "Yo,
Oh,
can't hear you." It's like awesome.
it's the best, mate. It's the best. It's
Yes,
yeah. It's always the way, mate. Whenever you need it, it doesn't work. Whenever you don't need it, it works like a charm.
promptly.
It's
Yeah,
always the way. Yeah, always the way it goes. But how's your week been, sir? Have you been going?
tough week. So
Yeah.
like the track, I had tough races, and maybe
Okay.
like we can spend some time talking about them as well.
Okay. Yeah.
But
Please. Yeah.
I think I had three races. One of those races, I think I spun. I think when I made a mistake myself during the race. The second race,
Okay.
I think I got like not crashed like DNF, but I got crashed
Uh-huh.
twice, and then I lost some position. Then I had to find position. And then
Okay.
the third race I raced, I couldn't qualify, so I tried two fast
Right.
laps. I got off tracks on both.
Okay.
Then I started on the back of the
Okay.
pack, and to make things even better, it was a stronger
Mhm.
pack. People were like fast on the top half, so I was just
Okay.
trying to fight my back climb. What I realized, and I don't know if I have to be more aggressive
Mhm.
on the races, and I was gonna even like get like put apart the race to show you, but like, it wasn't the entire race,
Mm.
and I'm not gonna make you
Mm.
like watch the entire race. But
No, of course. Yeah.
I sometimes I get stuck behind slower
Okay.
cars, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
I have like the pace, but then I look like, oh, if I go here, it's still too much risk, and I try to be patient, and then at some
Yeah.
point I either lose patience or like I get a very good situation that I go for the
Mhm.
overtake. What happens
Yeah.
is
Okay.
these people that get overtaken, and
Mhm.
in the next corner, they're like half a second behind, and they just like
Mhm.
throw a dive bomb, and then of course like I avoid a crash, and they're like
Okay.
back in front of me. Sometimes I'm able to catch up again, sometimes I'm not.
Yeah.
This race I'm talking about, the last one, I was stuck behind this guy
Okay.
for a long time, and
Right.
oh, the second race I was stuck
Uh-huh.
behind the guy. I was much faster, like much faster. So I'd try to
Yeah.
set him up, and I would try to go for the overtake. It wasn't clean,
Yeah.
so I'd back it up, and I would lose like
Mhm.
0.8 tenths or like 8 tenths.
Mhm.
And in half a lap, I was like up his ass again. So that was the difference in
Okay.
pace, but I couldn't overtake him. So he finally made a
Right.
mistake because I was putting a lot of pressure. But when he made a
Mhm.
mistake, he kind of parked the car in the middle of the track, and I wasn't quick enough to react because I was so close.
Right.
And ended up like bumping him on the rear. And if I had
Yeah.
like bumped him and like punted him and I was able to pass him, like I wouldn't be sorry. But I spun. Both
Mhm.
of us spun. So he
Okay.
lost a lot of
Right.
positions. And in
Okay.
the second race, I think I was stuck again. And then at some point, I just lost my patience. And I went for like a dive bomb, and I took the position. But then the guy was angry. So I was having to play like
Yeah.
more reactively. And he was going side by side until like I got a good exit and I finally cleared
Yeah.
him. But he
Yeah.
like these two guys costed me a race basically.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. It's really hard, man, because again, you can't be in the mind of someone else. I think that's always kind of one of the worst and most frustrating things is, you have a idea or an action that you know that you always drive respectfully. You always, make sure that you put yourself and other drivers in a safe position to be able to, make passes and give, respectful racing room and all the things like that. But again, there's just drivers that think in a completely different mentality, and a lot of it is honestly, a lot of it is ego based, to be honest with you. And unfortunately, there is a lot of egos on this platform. And again, validly so. I mean, it's very competitive. Obviously, everybody wants to win, but yeah, from what I've seen in my time at least, not a lot of people like to lose positions. I suppose is probably the best way to put it. And because of that, people can then go and drive very aggressively. So it's always quite a hard car, I think, to honestly, have really really close racing in, because again, you have to be such on a fine line to make sure that you achieve that kind of result of close racing to the perfect point. I think because they just are so snappy, they are kind of understeery depending on the car you're driving, and depending on the way that people are just honestly driving the race car. If they're a late breaker, if they're an early breaker, if they break, into the ABS, if they don't break into the ABS, there's so many different kind of philosophies and approaches that can honestly potentially affect the result that you may get from the car and from the track as well. So yeah, no, look, like we talked about the other day, I think we definitely should at some point go over races, and especially as we start to continue to improve your structure side of things, to be able to kind of look back over a race and say, okay, yeah, look, maybe I could have done this better or done this worse, or done this differently or done this a little bit more efficiently. It's always really, really important. And I've worked with a few drivers by actually looking with their real life racing, and the amount of situations that we overview and look at that we're literally like, it's these one or two decisions that you could have made differently and could have done better, that literally would have made your race completely flip on its head, in terms of, you could have, instead of finishing P5, you could have finished easily P1 or P2, almost in a way. If you made one correct split second decision of, instead of going right, you went left, right? Instead of going left, you need to go right. But again, that's just that split second racing decision that you need to be able to, I guess, debark, and obviously be able to apply in the moment there. And again, that just comes from experience and just racing knowledge
don't
as
give an
well.
inch.
So I guess pace wise and I guess results wise, did you end up having a pretty good week at the bend so far? Has it been quite good, or like, have you been running up the front, or has it been kind of a bit more sort of further down, or how's the pace been
No, yeah, like
been
that's
for you
that's why I
from
said
an
like
external
the
perspective?
pace, like
Mm.
on the free practice the pace is there. Then
Okay.
on the qualifier, I think for the first two races, I got good qualifying times. Not like
Okay.
I don't think I was like top two in any of them, but I was like
Okay.
top five, both of them.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Not with my best pace, so I knew I had more pace to unlock.
Okay.
But then like a couple mistakes here and there, either like by myself or
Yeah.
with other people that are like in the third race. I just started like second to last, so I had
Yeah.
and I'm running here the replay to see if I find the guy that I was stuck behind, to maybe
Okay.
like show you. But
Yeah.
I just realized that in the first lap, I said in the stream like I'm gonna be super aggressive because I have to get rid of these slower cars like soon, and a guy parked the car in the first on the turn 3, and I rear-ended him and I spun. So I go hard on the brakes to avoid like the crash that's gonna destroy my race. But I think because of that I end up spinning whenever I touch those cars.
Yeah.
But at least like I didn't have to fix my car. But
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
not good,
For sure.
not good. And it's
Yeah.
it's
Okay.
also like the first two races, I think I combined gained like 6 I rating.
Okay.
And then the third race I lost like 60. I'm in that position
Yeah.
that if something goes wrong, it goes very wrong.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
when it
That's
goes
how
right,
goes.
it goes slightly right.
Yeah. That's just the iRating urban flow. In all honesty, it's either you do very, very, very well and you get a good result, or you do slightly well and you don't really get too much from it, and then you have one bad race and it loses all of your hard work. But again, I think it's very much a case of, that's why you can just typically never be I guess, super mindful of the iRating side of things, as you are, which I think makes your approach very, very good in it. Because at the end of the day, some weeks we can have really, really good results. Some weeks we can have, not very good results. But at the end of the day, we've got to think about all of these circuits that we're visiting every single week, every single sort of session. They're all brand new. Literally every single time, they're all brand new. And, understanding the way that the racing works around the track, that's something new for you to learn. The way that the racing works around the track, you just need to kind of try and understand and break down, okay, well, where are people typically passing? Where do people seem to be in a pace sort of sense? Where do people always tend to be slower than other drivers, or in comparison to me? It's a lot of kind of background philosophy at all these circuits that outside of the actual pace side and understanding, where to go, where your braking markers are, where your turning points are, all the little things like that. There's so much more to it realistically in that case, and it's just about understanding, well, where is that almost in a sense. So I guess, there's going to be these weeks, and again, we've had experiences like this last season of the Vara. We had a week where it wasn't exactly the best for you like that. This isn't really the same situation. This is just more so making sure that you can execute what you're needing to execute in a qualifying sort of sense.
Hmm.
And if you do obviously run into the case that you can't execute that qualifying, or for whatever reason may be, or typically just don't really have a good qualifying nonetheless, how to remain composed and how to remain calm, and don't feel like you need to rush things. I think that's the biggest importance that you always got to kind of look upon, is that don't rush things just because you kind of feel like if you don't rush it, it's going to be the make or break for you. Yeah, look, in all honesty, it might be the difference between you being able to get back up to the front and finish, in the top 3, for example, right? But it could also be the difference between you getting into an incident, and then instead of gaining I rating, you end up, like you mentioned, you end up losing,
A
60,
lot.
70, 80, depending on the situation, right? So it's a lot about the patience. So do you feel like the virtue of patience is something that in those situations probably needs to still be developed a little bit, particularly in these cars, I suppose, in
Not
one
like,
way or another?
I think I have to. So I think I have to develop less patience, to be honest, because
Okay.
if I have
Okay.
to trade off like be stuck behind the car for the entire race or like completely risk it, let me,
Yeah.
because I was getting it here, so let me.
Yeah. Okay.
Which one? I think it's this one. Can you see my screen?
Yep. Yep. I got it. Yep.
So
Yep.
this is lap 2, and I'm gonna like
Okay.
put fast forward because I was stuck
Yeah.
behind this guy here for 4 laps. I think this is too
Okay.
much. Let's put like this. So,
Right.
and at some point, P2 spun out and got right behind me. So you're gonna see
Yeah.
a good portion of the race in like you see like that guy was P2.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
like okay,
okay.
now I have to really get through this guy. We're
Mhm.
lap 2 gone, lap 3 gone, like we're on lap 4, and
Yeah.
I think like I need more ideas on how to like overtake. Now this
you're
guy
getting
who is a
attacked.
fast guy is up my ass, right? And I
Yeah.
can't overtake this guy. And he was
Yeah.
I've raced him before. He's aggressive, but he's not unsafe. So
Uh huh. Uh huh.
now he's attacking me, and now I have to
Yeah.
like defend an attack, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
because I learned from you, like control the corner,
Yeah.
like here I am,
Yeah.
controlling the
Yeah.
corner, right?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
defending,
Yeah.
trying to get, and here like I'm faster than this guy, but then I missed the
Yeah.
braking
Yeah.
marker, and I've been back
Yeah.
and forth here
Yeah.
until the point,
Yeah.
and you see like I'm trying to set up, I'm trying to influence him to make a mistake,
Yeah. Yeah.
until some point that I was like, if I don't go for it now, okay, here. So what
Yeah.
happened
Oh,
here,
man.
I went flat on this corner because I
Yeah,
wasn't going
okay.
flat. I was like, let me go flat. And it didn't
Yeah.
work. It just did not
Yeah.
work. But I was like,
Yeah.
you know what, screw
Yeah.
it, right?
Yeah.
Going off track.
Got the momentum.
Yeah,
Let me
like-
send it. Yeah.
I'll send it. He was probably pissed.
Yeah.
And you
Yeah.
see like how much he's forcing
Yeah.
and he's pushing. And I don't know, like, put rear chase. He's going crazy. I mean, I'll
Yeah.
be upset
Yeah.
as well because it wasn't like the cleanest pass.
Yeah.
But it was, right?
Okay.
So,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I'm kind of defending here, hoping
Yeah.
for this guy to start attacking him. But I knew
Yeah.
like one good clean exit would give me the
Yeah.
pace I needed. And then
Yeah.
this guy took
And then you got by.
like a quarter of a lap to overtake him. Took me like 4
Yeah.
laps. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
because he was pissed and he made another mistake. He was just focusing on me and he found a gap. And then I was able to hold this position until I went off track and this guy passed me. But then like
Okay.
I was also under attack for a long time.
Okay.
My tires were
Right.
gonna
Right. Okay.
gone.
Yeah.
But you see, like I think I have
Okay.
two things that I think when I'm trying to overtake someone. One is trying to induce them to a mistake. So getting really close, showing the car, pretending I'm gonna go for a dive and not going, trying to see if I can distract them from their braking marker. Sometimes it works. Nowadays, like
Yeah.
10% of the time it works. 9% of the time just doesn't work. The other thing that I try to do, and I did here a lot, but I just never had like good enough exit, is going on the brakes slightly earlier to try to get on the gas slightly earlier. So like get those 2-3 kilometers an hour more on the straight,
Yep.
and try to pass.
Yeah.
But I can't. Like
Yeah.
I think also he was benefiting from the slipstream from this car, but
Sure.
yeah. Anyways, this is my
Okay.
rant.
Yeah, yeah. No, interesting there. Interesting there. Now, one thing that you got to keep in mind as well is, and again, something that will pop up quite a fair bit going into the future with car choice is obviously the speed differentials in a straight line, right? Now, you've probably already noticed from this week so far with the BMW that you've been driving that the straight line speed in that car is a lot more potent than the Porsche, right? That's why it's so much better at a lot of tracks, right? So the problem is that a lot of the corners that you kind of taking, the Porsche is always going to be fairly faster than what the BMW or the Mercedes is going to be, for example, depending on the track. But those straight line areas, it's not really ever going to allow you to kind of get a good run in a straight line. You've realistically got to try and make your passes all in the corners, because you're never going to get that opportunity where you're faster in a straight line in this car, and that's just the unfortunate reality of when you're driving the Porsche. But, you know, in situations like this where, you know, almost in a way, you know, this guy is actually faster, you know, at that point that he has spun out and he is attacking you quite aggressively, I would actually just let him go, to be honest with you, in that sort of manner there. And especially before when he was attacking you and you were attacking the guy ahead, you could actually use him as the opportunity to try and get past the guy that you were obviously stuck for 3 or 4 laps. Because that guy that was actually behind you, he was attacking you for about 2-ish laps and you were defending from him. Now, obviously, he was that little bit faster, right? And you are obviously holding him off here, but it's kind of just like one of those things that you want to kind of just take those kind of almost 2 birds with 1 stones moments, and you just kind of want to say, what's the quickest amount of race time that I can actually achieve here? Is it going to be quicker for me to defend from this guy that clearly is, you know, has a little bit more pace right now? Or is it better for me to just let him go and let me almost try to use him as opportunities to pass the cars ahead, almost in a way, right? And that's sometimes how you've got to kind of think about it, is that if I'm naturally faster, I'll get him back at a point, right? I will get him back at a point. But if I'm not faster, then clearly you're going to say, well, I guess, what do I need to do to be faster? You know, then you got to kind of say, well, how do I approach this slightly differently? Because again, you know, obviously by battling and by getting attacked and all that sort of stuff, obviously it's brought you to this forward pack, which is obviously fantastic. But you've kind of got to say, well, if you just let him go and, you know, worked smartly to kind of get past that BMW that you were stuck by for a while, who knows how much quicker you would have been able to get to this pack, and who knows how much quicker that potentially you would have been able to put a pass on, for example, right? Because the problem is here, you're with the pack, but you're never able to attack the pack because you're always defending, right? Whereas if you let him go and let him attack, who knows what opportunities he could open up, right? Who knows what he might be able to do that might open up opportunities for you, right? So you've just got to kind of think about it from okay, we can hold position, but how can we kind of give up positions or compromise or compensate to then in the future gain, almost in a way, right? How can you use it to that extent? Does that make sense a little bit?
Yeah, it does. Like, and it's good you say that, because I was trying to weigh the pros and cons during the race, because I've done this in the past, exactly what you're saying, and I don't think like there's a right or wrong. I like the idea. Maybe I should have tried it.
Yeah.
Maybe like after being stuck behind these cars like for 4 or 5 laps, I should have let him go. But what has happened in the past also is, I let the guy go through, and then he gets stuck behind the car in front of me, and then I gained 0 positions. I just lost 1.
Yes.
And I get like frustrated because I'm already like behind here. The second thing that I was thinking here, you see, like that's when I made a mistake, and I think it passed here, and I just like But also like, it was a lot of fun to defend from a guy who actually has some pace, because the guys, like the problem with the guys ahead of me is they were like back to back, so they're not faster than I am, but they let me see if I can put this on mute. They're not faster than I am, but they are like one behind the other. So they have some slipstream, and then when I look in the corner, it's not that I have like a clean pass, because if I try to get in between them, I might get like knocked out of the race, you know? So it's a lot going on. And now looking like in hindsight, I think it's kind of like what you're saying makes a lot of sense. If you
Wendell
look, the other guy, he
said, hey man.
Has he passed someone? No, he hasn't passed anyone. You see, like, he passed me like maybe 2-3 laps ago, and he's still here.
Yeah, and he hasn't passed anyone.
Like,
and he's still here. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So I kind of like, I'll try to think more strategically next time. I think it makes sense. I've done that in the past. It's just like I was born in the past, so I decided not to try it. You know. this time.
Yeah, no, for sure, for sure. But yeah, you know, look, you just got to kind of think about the end result here, right? I mean, look where we are, right? Look where we are. You know, we're not in the pack. We're not battling because unfortunately we were focusing on the wrong battle. You know.
Yeah,
Now, yeah, it's always in hindsight what's gonna happen, right? And that's the thing. We don't know. We don't know what's gonna happen. But at the end of the day, from that sort of battle that you were doing, rather than losing one position, instead you probably actually went and racked up probably another 5 or 6 off tracks, for example, right?
yeah,
Because you were battling, you were making mistakes, you were going wide, you were attacking corners very aggressively, you know. So it's always very hard to say. It's always hard to get an absolutely perfect answer from every single situation. It's never going to end up exactly how you want it to. But it's just about sort of thinking about how can I make this race as fast as possible, almost in a way. How am I going to make this race as fast as possible, as clean as possible, and execute it in the best way that I actually possibly can as well? Those are the three things that you've always got to try and think about in those situations. And again, it's always the kind of question of, if I let him go, is he actually going to get past? Right? That's always the thing that you kind of have to sit there and wonder, is he going to do that? But you can't exactly think about that in the moment. You just never really know. And again, like from a driver's perspective as well, in terms of his car, he was trying to attack you very aggressively. You know, he was trying to work quite hard to get back past you. Right now, obviously he spun out, so he would have really affected his tires in that manner. Obviously, he was probably using the ABS quite a lot to get around you and try to pass you. So all of these factors, after 5, 6, 7 laps, he probably started to kind of just lose the tire a little bit as well, to be honest with you, and didn't really have that speed to be able to actually, get past someone and execute that pass because the pace just disappeared, right? It's the conversation that we've had, for months now where, you can have that tire for such a long period, but then as soon as you kind of hit that drop-off phase, that's it. You can be as good as you want, but you can't exactly get the answer that you're looking for, and that's kind of what maybe happened. You just never know. But yeah, I think you've almost got to think still in the same way that we're thinking about, just being obviously smart with your racing, obviously saying, okay, well, if I genuinely just think I'm faster in this situation, let me stay there, let me do my thing, let me defend, let me do all that. But at the end of the day, you got to kind of then say, okay, well, let me execute this race, let me look back on it and see, well, what could have I done differently, right? So in this situation, from my perspective, with how we ended up, I would have just let him go, right? Because at the end of the day, we ended up where you would have been maybe 10 laps earlier, almost in a way, right? But the difference is that by you giving something up, from what I can probably see, if we did it early enough, that guy probably still would have had enough pace underneath him potentially to make some moves. But it was too late in the race that obviously he burned his stuff up and he wasn't able to execute what he was needing to do. Because yeah, obviously he was at the front, and you would have been at the front as well, but you both just kind of got then held up in the pack. And once you're in the pack, you're dealing with all the different types of cars. Ford Mustang, which is quick in a straight line. BMW is obviously quick in a straight line. Mercedes is obviously quite good in a straight line as well. And then we're in the Cayman, which obviously is really good in the corners, but not exactly the best in the straights. So yeah, look, it's all about just looking back on things and taking a learning experience from it and sort of saying, well,
yeah,
what could I have done differently? What could I have done better? And that's what it's always about. So in that situation, I genuinely think I would have made the executive decision to let him go and see what would have opened up for you, right? Because yeah, in one way or another, you would have had some sort of beneficiary. Okay, you would have maybe lost a position, but you probably would have saved yourself 5 or 6 off tracks, right? Which obviously, in a safety rating sense, obviously would have helped you out nicely. I'm sure, a 12 or 13x on a license or a B license isn't exactly the best thing to have, because yeah, it can affect you quite immensely. But obviously, it doesn't really matter too much. But again, from a gain sense, you always want to be gaining something. So yeah, look, there's always negatives, there's always positives, but you've just got to say, well, how can I do this in the best possible way? And if you can kind of take those kind of benefits from it, then that's what sort of matters, right? So yeah, look, any comments from you on that? Does that kind of make sense? What we're trying to kind of put forward there, I suppose.
yeah. I think it does. Like, or I think it makes sense. I have like just one more question about this because
Sure.
I
Yes.
like
Yes.
what you just said gives me some level of confidence that I had this doubt in my mind during the race because I have been burned in the past. I was like, no, I'm not gonna give this away. I'm gonna fight for both,
Yeah.
right?
Okay. Yeah.
And to your point, like at the end of the race, it just costed me a lot of like safety rating
Yeah.
and cost me the position.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I had like
Yeah.
neither. So
Yeah.
in that sense, like
Yeah.
maybe the gamble early was better. Even more when I got stuck for so long behind the same car, just let him through, let him fight a little bit, and see if they find each other. Like maybe they crash and I get two positions. But let's forget about like the fact that he was behind me, right?
Okay.
What
Yeah.
else could I have done? Like, what other strategies can I employ when I'm stuck behind someone that is slower but defends overly aggressively during the corners?
Um, well, I think the biggest thing is that especially when you're stuck behind someone for a while and you're kind of starting to see where they crack and where they do well and where their fast points and slow points are, actually diagnose those a little bit in a way. I mean, obviously, especially if you're literally by yourself, there's no one behind you, and you have a gap to the car behind quite significantly, you've got a lot of time to think, right? You've got a lot of time to analyze because you're kind of in that box seat to kind of not really think about too much. You can kind of put a lot of sort of mental capacity into sort of saying, okay, well, where do I actually notice that he is losing the time? Where is he slow on this racetrack, right? Where do I always seem to be keep getting opportunities every single time, right? Now, obviously, it's that one time that you then try and go to do something that potentially you might do it really, really well, and then obviously it's kind of like, oh, well, damn, obviously this time he's done it good. But what you basically need to almost try and do in a way is analyze where he's slow and where you gain the most and try to really, really kind of execute or try to kind of diagram a pass or try to build up a potential pass from those kind of moments. So if you say he's slow into turn 4, he's slow into turn 8, he's slow into turn 13, right? You got to basically say, well, I've got to make sure every single time that I prepare myself out of the exits of turn 3, out of the exits of turn 7, and out of the exits of turn 12 to be able to, or turn 11, to be able to set the move up for these particular types of corners where he's going a little bit slow. Now, you obviously saw that you did make that pass into hairpin. And in my opinion, very clean pass. You didn't do anything wrong. You didn't make any contact. Again, like I said at the beginning of today, that's just a typical iRacing ego that thinks they're Max Verstappen and then they're better at everyone else. But you made a clean pass, right? You did. You didn't do anything wrong. You went down the inside. You gave plenty of racing room, and you made a sufficient pass, and he slotted in behind you. That's it. That's racing, right? That's how it goes. But again, that move could have been potentially built up about 5 laps ago. It's just more so a case of clearly, okay, well, you saw that maybe he was a little bit less confident going into that corner than you again because the BMW isn't exactly very good in the corners, right? So you could have said, well, okay, well, if I can get a really, really good run out of the fast left-hander, I would have maybe been able to kind of set that move up if I just, broke that little bit later, just kind of sent it in a little bit deeper and just, went for that gap that obviously wasn't being blocked. But yeah, I think you've just got to kind of, when you do have the time on your hands, you can really analyze and describe the corner. And again, that's again the beauty of doing what we talked about before. Let the guy go, have a think, right? But the problem was is that you were always consistently defending
Yeah.
realistically all the time. You could never look forward. You're always looking backwards. So yeah, again, it's all about just giving yourself as much mental capacity as possible, and it's again the big topic of what we've talked about, especially from the driving perspective of things. Really trying to just open up your mental capacity, right? Because it's a really important thing. It's a really, really important thing because once you start to get up in your mind, you can see what tends to happen, right? You start making mistakes, you start going wide, you start getting off tracks, you start, going offline and stuff like that, and it all starts to just compile on each other. And every single time that keeps happening as well, you just get more flustered, more flustered, more flustered, more flustered, and then it just turns into a bomb show almost in a way, right? And it just starts to all unravel for you very quickly. But if you can sort of make early decisions in the race that, again, you compensate to potentially gain, you're probably going to just have a better race overall. And in all honesty, you'll probably learn a lot more from it as well and say, okay, well, I made this decision. Why did I not then get my game back? What did I do wrong to not get my game back? And that's when you can then say, okay, well, why didn't I be able to get past this guy? Where could I have maybe done better here? What could I have done there? But then again, the problem is that by the end of the race in this situation, we're not really even close to the guys that we were battling with 5 laps ago, So, yeah, it's all about thinking. It's all about sort of trying to use the mental capacity you have available to make value decisions, to analyze other people's driving, to see where the gains are being made by you, where the gains are being made by them. And again, I guess when you look at it from a car choice as well, this is why there's cars that just are the best for the week. This is why there's cars that are mainly chosen, because for tracks like this at the bend, if you have a lot of straight line speed, you probably do very well, right? But if you have a good car in the corners, yeah, you have a good car in the corners. But at the end of the day, to be able to set up a run every single time can be quite tough almost in a way, right? So it's very much a way of, that's why that, you know, tracks like Nordschleife, tracks like, you know, Road America, you know, a lot of these kind of big straight line tracks like the Bend, right? They're always the cars like the Mercedes, the Ford, the BM, the Aston, you know, all of those cars that are very strong in a straight line. That's why they're masterclasses there. But when you think about trucks like, you know, I remember doing a race once at Tsukuba in these cars, and the Cayman dominated, right? Because again, it's the best car in the corners. The straight line speed isn't
Mhm.
exactly the best, right? So it's all these factors that kind of linger around themselves, and you know, they just all kind of fall back over each other in some way, shape, or form, and that's really just what you got to think about. So yeah, look, Alan, take a bit of a step away from it and look at it from that perspective, and just sort of say, okay, well, even in future races to come, what could I have done differently there, in a sense of, okay, could I have maybe seen where he needed to, where he was going slower and where I was going quicker? Could I have maybe analysed, well, where can I set up a manoeuvre here? Where can I, you know, where can I potentially make a pass because he's going slower in these four corners? You know, think about if you have someone that you can tell that is slightly faster at the point, say, well, do I feel like it's going to be more beneficial for my race by trying to defend it? Or is it going to be more beneficial for my race to let him go, let him almost open up the way, right? Let him open up the track and obviously set up passes for himself that actually could potentially then set up passes for myself as well, right? If I stay close enough and I make sure I'm driving my lines. Because, like you said, he got past that guy in half a lap, right? If you were let him go, that half a lap could have been 4 or 5 laps earlier, right? And you could have had an extra 4 or 5 laps in your piece to be able to decide what you were wanting to do. But we didn't, you know, and that's realistically the biggest thing. So, yeah, look, you just got to kind of allow yourself to look at it from a different perspective and kind of think about it in a different manner. And I think if you can kind of do that, then, you know, I think it'll actually really help out your racing craft and just your general races, more so than anything, right? So, yeah, look, I think really good. Otherwise, it's great to have these moments because this is how you learn. And then obviously, yeah, racecraft isn't something that we've particularly looked at in a big piece as of yet. But it's good to see that even in those moments, from what I could see from that replay there, you were still applying all the structures, all the techniques correctly. You were still doing everything, you know, in the way that you needed to. It's just obviously more so the case of, yeah, you know, keeping that stability and everything can be quite hard when you're trying to break offline and you're trying to do all these little things differently, right? So, yeah, but no, look, any final comments on that anyway from yourself? Anything to add there from your end on anything as of discussion there?
No. I think we can move on to like Road America.
Yep.
But I think it was a good discussion. Like it gives me some things or some more confidence into
Yep.
like weighing the pros and cons during a race. So like I don't want to give away the position right away, but if I feel
Yep.
like I don't
Yep.
have a way through, maybe I'll just let the guy
Yep.
go through and like just
Yep.
maybe attacking him
Yep.
like other way around
Mm-hmm.
and see if something happens from there. And like he spun once,
Yeah.
maybe he would have spun twice, crashed,
Yeah.
and like
You
I
never
would gain
know.
a position back and he was like gone.
Yeah, exactly. And you never even know if he might have cracked with someone else ahead of you, you know, and he
Yeah.
would have gained two, you know, you might have gained two. So yeah, again, like I said, you know, I've been the same in the past. I don't really like giving up positions either, but sometimes it's just like, you know what, the guy's faster, let him go and see what happens, you know, and I might gain some beneficiary from it. But if I don't, then it allows me to analyze a little bit better. And plus, at the end of the day, you don't sit there and say that I lost another 5 to 7 7 incident points, right? And you lost more, like another 0.3 of safety rating
Yeah.
for no real benefit, you know, for no real benefit at all. If you were getting a benefit out of using the off tracks, I'd say okay, yeah, absolutely. But in the end, we didn't exactly get the benefit that we wanting to. So it's kind of like, well, what was the point of it? You know, what was the deal with it? So yeah, look, there's something to think about, something to consider. But look, a great learning experience anyway. Now, onto the BM at Road America. First of all, absolutely fantastic lap time. Really cool. I mean, super duper close. And to see that you've been able to kind of hop in, obviously execute, be able to kind of understand a little bit of a difference in this car in comparison to the Porsche is absolutely superb. Of course, the consistency, I'm sure, is something that we're still trying to build up in this car and just kind of get our head around the kind of the track and just the combo and all the little things like that a little bit more as well. But from your end and from your perspective, obviously, realistically, I guess the first time now in these GT4 cars that you're driving pretty much a front engine car, since the M2, of course. But yeah, how are you finding the difference between the Cayman and this? And is there anything mainly that you're noticing that is a big difference in terms of the way that the car rotates, in terms of the stability of the car? Is there any big things that are standing out to you straight away from when you've driven this car this week so far?
Yes. And I was waiting for that question because
Yeah.
this car like took me back all the way to the M2 that we used to drive. Feels very similar. It's kind of you don't want to be in the super low gears. So I think at some point I was just going fourth gear corners that like in the Porsche maybe I would be doing like in second or third.
Correct. Yep.
But like stay away from the low gears.
Yep.
It's kind of easy to induce rotation with the throttle on this car,
Yep.
and like
Yep.
the old feeling of, or not the old feeling, but the feeling with the old M2 of really like letting the car slide a little bit more to get a better exit, snap on the rear. So I really felt like a M2 on steroids. Like I feel
Yeah.
it didn't take me long, and I was almost like crying on the stream, like, oh, this feels so good because I miss so much that car. So I think it was like a good moment, and
Yeah.
I was able to quickly adapt to the car. I knew the track; it's a track that I've raced before, and I've been practicing for the
Yeah.
6 hours of Road America, anyways. So it's kind
Yeah.
of recent as well that I've been in this track. So it
Yeah.
didn't have like a steep learning curve neither for the car or for the track. I think that's why the
Yep.
result came so fast.
Yep, yep, no, fantastic. So, yeah, all of those comments you made, you know, higher gears, obviously the way the car rotates, all the little things like that, that is definitely true. With this car, and obviously the M2, obviously like you drove with in Spa over the weekend, obviously the M4 GT3, definitely handles a little bit differently to the both of these. I mean, it definitely handles like a GT3 should. But that kind of, yeah, that snappy rear, that kind of rear rotation that you kind of get from the car, obviously the kind of snappiness onto the entry of the corner, the snappiness back on power, very similar kind of feelings to that of the M2, which almost, yeah, like you said, I'm sure brought you back in a way to everything that you've done in that car over the last, season and a half, realistically. So I'm sure you really enjoyed that feeling. And again, it probably is the reason why you've been able to get up to speed really quickly. But I suppose that really main topic with this car, I suppose that, now that we've tried basically nearly both ends of the stick, realistically, from a front engine car and realistically a rear engine car, it's actually about understanding, well, what is the difference between the two, and I guess and obviously is that conversation we had at Canadian Motorsport Tyre Park there, that obviously we talked about the way that we get on the power in the Porsche and the way that we would get on the power in the M2, for example, is very different. This kind of then shows you those two different situations basically side by side, and kind of what the differential is between the two. So I'm sure from probably what you felt, obviously the first thing to note with these front engine cars, as we learned with the old M2 as well, obviously, yeah, your rotation a lot of the time tends to happen on the throttle, right? And, that really big important part is that, again, that initial part of the braking zone, that first initial rotation, phase of the braking zone as well, you've got to make sure that by the time you get to that kind of mid-apex point, the car is already rotated, the car is already pointing in the direction you want it to be, and you can obviously then initiate the power and squeeze into it to allow that kind of front axle to lock, and obviously that's what actually generates the rotation for you. Now, I've had this question a fair few times this week, not only in these sort of GT4 cars, but even in, like, for example, GT3s, GR86, Porsche Cup, all these like little things as well. Is how do you kind of differentiate the way that you drive between driving a car that's rear engine and a car that's sort of front engine? Because I have a lot of guys that obviously do a lot of the GT3 stuff, and obviously the open to fixed racing almost in a way as well. And the problem with the open to fixed racing in GT3s is that you can literally have the Ford Mustang, for example, be the absolute bomb in fixed, but then you might have the Ferrari that's going to be the absolute weapon in the open series, right? Just depending on the setups and the way that everything you can adjust is, and all those little minority things that you can change. But obviously the difference is that from race to race, you're going from a front engine car to obviously a rear engine car in a way, right? So the way that I always like to kind of talk about the differentialities between the two is just basically about how much momentum that you actually carry into the corner, right? So when we're dealing with a front engine, like here at Road America in the BMW, what you probably typically have to find is that coming into these corners, all of these kind of hairpins, these medium speed corners, high speed corners, whatever it might be, you actually are going a little bit slower than a rear engine car, right? You're actually carrying in a little bit less momentum than a rear engine car, right? Now, also to kind of keep in mind with the BM as well, of course, you are naturally using higher gears, right? So naturally that does mean that you're not going to be able to use as much engine braking to be able to get the car stopped, right? So the way that you obviously have to then attack and approach the corners is that you actually want to start to carry a little bit less momentum coming into the corner, which is obviously going to then allow you to rotate the car where you want it to be, get the car to stop in the place that you obviously want it to be, and then you can throttle on, right? So usually how it is, you come to the corner slower, you get a better exit, right? So that's a lot of the time, I'm sure you've probably seen, like at the bend, for example, you've maybe seen cars like the Mercedes, cars like the Ford, cars like the Mercedes. They're quite slow at the apex, but their exit speeds are really, really high because, again, you rotate on the throttle, momentum starts earlier on the throttle. But in comparison to you, they drop the minimum speed, right? So then it's vice versa when we're talking about a rear engine car. You carry in more speed with the rear engine car because the fact of the matter is that you're going to be using a lot more brake and a lot more sort of trail brake to be able to rotate the car to the point that you kind of want it to be, that then you can then get on the throttle and don't feel like you're going to either oversteer and or understeer almost in a way, right? So what you basically allow yourself to do is carry more momentum in because you know that your momentum isn't going to be coming from the exit. Your momentum is coming from the entry. So what basically happens is between these two cars, you start to get this bit of a different kind of approach into all these corners. So that's why, for example, at the bend in that situation there, you could attack the entries a lot more. You could be a lot more aggressive on the braking zones, right? So when you think about it from a racing situation again, you say, well, where do I get the most beneficiary from with the Cayman? In the entries and at the apex, right? That's where I get the most beneficiary. Where do they? They get it all at the apex and on the exit, right? So if I can always make sure that I get my kind of my passes or my maneuvers set up for the entries of all these corners, if I can find a corner that's going to work really well to make a pass, that's where you're going to make it because you're never going to make it on a straight, right? You're never going to make it on a straight in this Cayman. So you've got to always really make sure that your passes are into the corners. So you've really got to just understand that front engine cars, it's all about the apex and the exit. In the rear engine cars, it's all about the entry and the mid phase of the corner. And that's where the beneficiaries come from both of the cars, right? So is that something that you felt a little bit already initially from driving? Or I guess does that open up your perspective now, hearing it in that way of, I guess, how you almost want to approach the different types of kind of car types, I suppose?
Yeah, like, and this leads me to a question. So, for example, if you think about the bend, we have like those three corners
Yep.
together, that are fast corners that go
Yep.
on the gas, and then you just touch the brakes to get the car pointing in the right direction, and then you do like second time, the third time.
Yep.
If I switch cars, for example, if I get like the Mercedes or if I get like the M4, whatever car, are the behaviors the same? Or like, for example, a different car would just be like a lift, or you know what I'm saying? Like, if I go around a track like in one car, do I immediately can transfer can I immediately transfer that knowledge to all the other cars, or I have to have in mind like, oh, if it's a rear engine like this one, then it's the same. But if it's gonna be like a front engine one, then it might be like very different approach.
Yeah. So yeah, you pretty much got to group them into their types of the different style types almost in a way. So yeah, obviously if you're driving all front engine cars, a lot of the stuff would stay the same, right? A lot of the philosophy would stay pretty much identical. If you're driving rear engine cars, then yeah, again, they slightly change a little bit more. So yeah, I definitely agree with that. Is that if you were to go from driving the Cayman to the BM, as much as things are the same, if you tried to maybe do something a little bit less aggressively in the Cayman and a little bit more aggressively in the BMW, you wouldn't be able to basically do the two things identically to each other. You would have to do things slightly differently. Either you would have to brake a little bit harder potentially in the BMW, maybe coming into the entry of the corner. You might have to brake a little bit softer towards the end of some high speed corner or whatever it might be. Things do definitely slightly be tinkered with from car to car, but the whole structure, the whole philosophy, everything stays the same. It's just all about how you trail to how you obviously get on the power that actually changes almost in a way. But again, that does then obviously develop from how you actually go into the corner. Because yeah, you've probably noticed a bit in this BMW already. It's very easy to get the car to not stop if you don't brake at the right point. And again, it's just the fact of the matter is that you're not using anywhere near as much engine braking as what you would in the Cayman, just because of again the way that the gearbox works as well in this car, a little bit like the old M2. Again, your third gear is basically your best friend, I guess, in all the Apex is not anywhere like first or second gear that you might use in cases in the Cayman, for example, right? So, yeah, that's just a really big thing to initially understand with this sort of car, and we did start that topic there with that Canadian Motorsports Park there. You obviously made that realization that, yeah, look, it is very different to the M2 that we were dealing with, but this kind of probably, yeah, brings you back to home, and that's why you've already been able to jump into this car and feel quite good about it. But yeah, whenever you go from car to car, you have to make the switch, right? You have to kind of make that mentality switch of saying, okay, well, this car is a front engine, this car's a rear engine. The approach that I have from the mid apex to the entry of the corner to then the exit of the corner as well, they all slightly have tinkered with. And it's all about saying, well, this car maximizing entry and mid apex, this car maximizing mid apex and exit, right? And that's one really, really big important thing to understand. But yeah, like I said, from what I can see almost in a way, man, it looks like you've just jumped in this thing and it's just it just clicked, you know, and is that what you've been feeling in a way? It just kind of clicked for you a little bit when you jump back into this?
Yeah. Like as I said in the beginning, like I don't think there was like a learning curve to the car.
Yeah,
It was more like
yeah,
readapting to the style of the car
yeah,
than proper
yeah,
like,
sure.
oh, what do I do now? Like, no, I know exactly what
Yeah,
to do. I just have to do it.
yeah, yeah. No, totally, totally. And did you notice, obviously, yeah, I'm suppose the biggest thing between the Cayman and this would be the exits, right? I'm sure you really, really noticed the exits in this car a lot more tail happy, almost in a way, right? But again, that's kind of something that you were used to in the M2, I suppose, as well, right? So was that something that felt quite comfortable for you as well, jumping into this thing?
Yeah, like in tail happy is a good word, or a good way to
Yeah,
describe it. So and I
yeah,
think that was good because last session I was talking to you that one thing that I'm forcing myself to think more about when I'm racing is what I'm doing with the throttle, because I tend to go
yeah,
like from 0 to 70 to 0 to 80, and then have
yeah,
like that long squeeze or like
yeah.
slow path to 100. Whereas
Mm-hmm,
sometimes I think it's better to just go like on a steady rate from
mm-hmm,
0 to 100 instead of like having
mm-hmm.
these steps, right? And I
Yeah,
think the
yeah,
Porsche tolerates way more this type of behavior
mm-hmm,
than the
mm-hmm.
M2. The M2, I
Yeah,
felt in some parts of the track that I was going too fast on the throttle, and I felt that
yeah,
because now I'm having to counter steer to hold the
mm.
car because the rear is snapping, and that's
Yes, yeah.
only because I'm going like from 0 to 80% too fast.
Yeah, yeah, no, exactly, exactly. So, yeah, look, that's the biggest thing that you're always typically going to notice with this car, especially as we in the future move to cars like the Mustang, for example. You're definitely going to notice a very similar thing. Even cars like the Aston, for example, very similar thing. The Mercedes, yeah, almost in a way, again, a very similar thing. So from what I can honestly say is that from these GT4s, that rear engine placement, almost in a way, seems to very, very much have a humongous effect on rear downforce generation or just rear bite kind of from the car whenever you do induce throttle basically into the vehicle. It actually really helps to kind of generate quite a fair bit of traction. But what obviously that can do is it typically generates understeer depending on the timing that you've done in the corner. Whereas obviously with these front engine cars where you don't have that rear kind of rear load over the rear axle, it seems to always generate, instead of understeer, it always tends to generate oversteer almost in a way, right? And again, in these cars, to be honest with you, a lot of the tracks that we're dealing with, you know, you think about the bend, you think about here, you'd always kind of prefer oversteer to understeer, to be honest with you. I mean, you think about all of the kind of long radius corners that you kind of have, a lot of the long winded areas, all of the kind of heavy braking zones that you do have. If you can get the car to kind of actually snap oversteer back on throttle, or even on initial turn in, just getting the car to kind of lose its kind of grip a little bit in a way, that's actually what can generate rotation for you sometimes. But we know from experience that understeer never really generates rotation, to be honest with you. It just turns into a school bus whenever you basically have understeer in any car that we drive, right? And that was obviously a big thing in the M2 that we discovered that, you know, ABS was a big sort of
Mm-hmm.
helper to generate understeer. And we hated understeer in that car. It's the same thing with these cars. We hate understeer when it comes to these kind of front engine cars, but the rear engine cars tend to really love it. So that's why, again, car choice and the whole BOP conversation and everything comes into a really big sort of play, because it's just a case of some tracks are going to prefer cars that can understeer, but realistically, the only car that's going to be able to understeer more so than not is basically probably this and the McLaren, realistically, in a way, in terms of the Porsche and the McLaren. Those are pretty much going to be the only two cars that you're going to find understeer really occurs massively from. But all the other cars, Aston, Mercedes, you know, BM, Ford, they're all basically oversteer almost in a way, right? So it's a very interesting thing to understand. And again, you know, looking forward into like GT3s into the future, it's again the case of, you know, that does still lie to be something that can occur. But again, you just have so much more downforce, you have so much grip generation in comparison, that it's not really something that you notice too often. I mean, I'm sure from the 24 hour, you probably never really felt like that BMW wanted to snap on you, to be honest with you. Maybe in some situations it did, but it was always quite, you know, quite stabilized depending on the way that the setup was built. But again, you can build setups to make them more snappy, make them more understeery, you know, so there's a lot more adjustment that you can make in that sort of manner. But yeah, it's super duper interesting. But yeah, look, from a track perspective, I mean, how did you feel with it otherwise? Obviously, Road America, a new circuit for you, I can sense. But how did you find it, and was there any really big sections that you kind of struggle with mainly, that you were like, okay, I keep getting this wrong, or I don't really understand it? Was there anywhere that kind of reached out to you and said, yeah, okay, look, I need to work on this area?
Yeah, I think like the two ones that I'm trying to work on more are that long right hander that
Yep.
you know, I don't know if it's T10 T9, like I don't know.
Yeah, is
Let
it
me
the
see.
big bowl pretty
Yeah,
much in
yeah,
a way?
yeah,
Is
yeah.
it the big, yeah, the
That's
big bowl?
one,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then the other one's the last corner. Like yeah, this
Okay.
one I'm kind
Yeah,
of
this
like
one. Yeah.
trying to find the best way of going around it.
Yeah.
Sometimes I
Yeah.
nail it, and when I nail it,
Yeah.
the delta
Yeah.
just like goes down very fast.
Yeah.
Whenever I
Okay.
don't nail it, it goes the other way around
Yeah.
very fast. And then the
Okay.
last corner. The last corner, I
Yeah. In the
think I
final corner.
finally
Yeah.
found like a good line around it.
Okay.
But the last corner is one that I feel I've been losing a lot of time.
Okay, sure. Um, so I mean, what I can probably see and you know already generate from both of these types of corners with what you're doing, you can see that they're both just basically were on the brakes too hard, realistically initially, right? Now you can see for me with the blue, not really proud of what I've done there, to be honest with you. That's not exactly, you know, a super efficient braking style from me. But I guess the fact of the matter is that you can see that initially my pressure is obviously already that little bit slightly slower, right? And softer, sorry, I should say. But we know that whenever we're braking that little bit softer, what is the big thing that's always going to do? It's going to carry just that little bit more momentum, right? So you can see that coming into it, you are already coming a little bit slower, right? So obviously due to turn 8, you already are coming in slightly under the speed that you want to be. And then obviously because of that, it means that any reaction you make then getting onto the brake pedal is obviously going to cause you to then potentially gain momentum or almost lose momentum, pretty much in a way, right? So what we pretty much need to do here is we just need to really make sure that, yeah, that pressure isn't too hard. But again, we're talking about really small feelings on the brake. You know, you can see that we're only dealing with 10% in comparison to, you know, 7%. So we're talking about, you know, the most finest margins here. But again, you can kind of see with the throttle, you do have like a really long holding phase, almost in a way, right? So with this corner and the way that obviously you radius around it, the further that you go through it, obviously, yeah, you're not going to be able to get from 0 to 100% in one initial motion, right? It's always going to be a more prolonged motion, almost in a way. But if you kind of feel like that upwards motion is just static, so if you feel like you just kind of, you know, you get to, let's say, you know, in this situation you get to 60%, right? And you're just holding 60, holding 60, holding 60, holding 60, holding 60. We know that that's okay, right? That is okay, right? But when we're looking for that last tenth of a second, right? the best way that you kind of want to be going about this corner is you always want to have forward momentum, almost in a way. You always want to be just continuously squeezing into the throttle coming out of here. So you can see that for me, I pick it up, 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 get to 75, 76, 78, 88, 78, 82, 83, 86, 90, 93, 100, right? So I'm always going upwards. Whereas in our situation, we're up, 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 and then we're 64, 63, 63, 63, 64, 64, 64, then 88, then 86, then 100, right? So you can see you have a really long holding phase, and what this holding phase can actually do for you in this particular situation is it just makes you, not understeering, but it makes you just put a little bit more steering angle in comparison to me, and obviously what that is generating for you is causing you to then not be able to, obviously execute it as well as I am, pretty much in a way. So from that, what we need to do is bring the pressure down, hold the volume a little bit heavier through the braking zone itself, push the on throttle point a little bit deeper, and actually allow yourself to get into the throttle a little bit more aggressively, right? And actually get into that throttle with a little bit more progression rather than kind of having a little bit more static in a way, right? But does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. And
Yeah,
I think,
yeah.
and that's what I said like in the beginning, that I'm trying to work more on this to have this like better refinement on the throttle instead of going these steps.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, look, again, it's great that we're doing this because we're not going down necessarily. We're not going down, right? And that's always the thing that we've always talked about. But when we're looking for that, that's where it is, really, in a way, right? So this works. It does work. You get time out of this without a doubt in comparison to past things that we've been doing in our journey together. But when we're looking for that last little bit, it's just in about saying, let me prolong the brake a little bit longer, but I prolong the brake a little bit longer by braking softer, and that will just honestly allow me to get onto the throttle a little bit more beneficial, have a little bit more of a beneficial throttle phase, and just get it to a little bit more aggressively, right? So that's all you got to think about, right? So yeah, something small, yet something that will probably really help you out in the long run with things. And obviously, like we mentioned, the final corner there, I think this is honestly just one that, again, kind of the same situation. You can kind of see that you kind of throttle, and then you kind of hold, and then you kind of squeeze into it. Whereas I can get into a lot more aggressively. I definitely have a little holding phase as well. But the differential is that my holding phase is at 80%, your holding phase is at 45%, right? So you felt like you've picked up the throttle really early and really quickly in your throttle band. You haven't been able to kind of get up any further because you're already understeering, right? Whereas for me, I can get up a lot more aggressively, hold ever so slightly, but then very quickly then translute and go straight back up to 100% as well. So, I mean, either one or two things. Probably I'd recommend that, yeah, bringing the brake pressure down, which would also then mean you would have to bring the brake pressure back to allow yourself to obviously achieve this. But, obviously the fact of the matter is that, okay, you did go faster through T14, but then you did lose the time down the straight because of the exit that you got in comparison, right? But in the end, the gain versus loss is only, what, 1300ths of a second? So
Yeah,
it's,
like
it's small, but
if you
it's
think
something.
about it, that's like when the overtakes are gonna happen, right? I might
That's right, exactly.
yeah. So that's
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I know.
Yeah. So it's about, as we know, compromise the gain, right? We want to gain on the straight, so we compromise a bit in the corner. And that's pretty much what I'm doing. I'm compromising through 14 to gain down the straight. You're gaining through 14 to compromise down the straight, pretty much in a way, right? So this is just one of those typical ones of bring it back and rotate it more and then power on rather than kind of attacking the corner very aggressively and doing everything correctly. But it is really good otherwise, right? Structurally, great. The way you're getting on the throttle, trying to get the car to rotate, great. But the problem is that you've done this too early, almost in a sense. Because think about it, right? You've broken later, and you've gotten on the power earlier, right? Usually what we always say is you brake later, and you get on the power later. So if you even trailed this brake just a little bit longer and got on the power here, you might not have had much of an issue, right? But it's because you broke here and got on the power here, that's where the issue stems from, right? So that's what we just got to kind of think about. So yeah, look, I think a few just main concepts I think to take away from today rather than the entire track in itself. I think the main thing that I'd really like you to think about is just, yeah, focusing on saying, well, how do I want my corners to look in this car? I want to obviously focus on getting the throttle down more and getting the throttle down more aggressively rather than focusing on getting the entry speed and the apex speed in this car. It's about how you get the exits, right? So this is a prime example of you trying to carry the speed into the apex, but it doesn't work like that in these cars, in these front engine ones, for example, right? This would work in the Cayman very well, but not in the BMW, right? So what I just need you to try and sort of just take a step back and think about is how you want to approach it from a front engine car standpoint in comparison to a rear engine sort of standpoint, and how that can really, really affect obviously your ongoing lap times and obviously progressing that little bit further, right? And that's going to make the biggest difference for you, right? So yeah. Any questions about all that, Alan? A lot of information here today, a lot of different kind of perspectives on things. But yeah, anything of comment, anything that you had a question about, or anything that we've talked about today that kind of didn't really make sense, or just wanted to re-clarify, or does that all kind of open up your perspective with a lot of things?
No, like this was very helpful. Like I just have one question that I was supposed to
Yeah.
ask earlier. So these cars will
Yep.
start having like the brake bias, right?
Yes. Sure.
And
Yes.
like I was in the 24 hour I was racing, and at some point
Yep.
I was talking. I think I was oversteering too much. I think the tires were gone, or like the car was too light.
Sure.
And
Okay.
someone told me, like a teammate told me, like, yo, put the brake like just a click to the front or to the back. I don't remember. He just said something.
Yep.
I did it. It worked. And I was like, I just realized I don't know how to use the brake bias. So we can discuss this more in depth. I think this deserves like a more time than we have now. But just in,
Okay,
like
sure.
in general, if I'm oversteering, should I bring the brake to the front or to the back?
To the front.
To
Yeah,
the
to the
front.
front. So, yeah. So, we'll definitely discuss it more in depth. But yeah, what you basically just want to think about it from a simple standpoint is that brake bias, that number that you have in that black box there, right? So let's just say 54%, right? So what that means, if you're going forwards 54%, what that'll mean is that you have 54% to the front brake pads, almost in a way, to the front brake disc. You're having 54% brake usage over the front axle, and you have 46% brake usage over the rear axle, pretty much in a way, right? So obviously the more load that you have on the front obviously means that you're going to stop oversteer base in a way, because the more rearward brake bias that you have, the more that it will generate, because you're getting more brake performance from the rear axle, which obviously stems out oversteer. So if you want the car to actually oversteer, you go backwards. If you want the car to almost in a way, in quotations, understeer more, you go forwards, pretty much in a way. That's just how you got to think about it simply. But we can definitely talk about that more in depth. But you just got to kind of think about it a little bit like a seesaw. You know, if you have it more forward, the seesaw leans down more to the right, meaning more forward. If you have it more to the back, the seesaw leans still to the front, but it leans a little bit more to the back, because obviously you're putting a little bit more sort of weight over the back. If you have it at 50%, it means that you have 50% on the front and you have 50% on the rear, pretty much in a way, right? So it's just a stable tin top almost in a way. But yeah, when you move it forward and backward, yeah, it basically induces understeer, or it can obviously induce oversteer as well, depending on how far you go in terms of brake bias adjustment. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. So like,
Yeah.
if I'm losing like more the rear of the car because of like whatever
Yeah.
in the race, I just put a
Yep.
click to the front and that should work.
Yeah, exactly. You go forward. If you're feeling like you've got too much understeer, you actually move it to the back.
To the
Yeah,
back.
so that's
Gotcha.
how you kind of want to think about it. Yeah, but yeah, we'll talk about that more in depth, because there's a few things that I'd like to talk to you about in that manner with that topic. Because yeah, obviously how it affects tire wear in races, and obviously in those endurance races as well, how it can affect obviously tires and how you approach it and all that sort of stuff. So definitely a bit more stuff to discuss there, but we can definitely do so. But yeah, no, look, think about all those things, Alan. I think a lot of kind of just I guess structural stuff that's very important to understand now that you've experienced both ends of the stick with these cars. And yeah, really put that in perspective this week at Road America, and try to maximize, those corners that you probably feel like you're struggling with, like the final corner. Just bring it back and just really focus on the exit. Don't focus on the entry, focus on the exit. If you're in the Cayman, focus on the entry. But in the BM, focus on the exit. That's where you're
Okay.
going to gain your time. So just think about that more consciously, and I think that'll really help you out. So yeah, man. Look, we'll have a look. We'll have a look next week. I'll try and get you a Road America lap again today, and see if I can get that IBT for you, so you can have a look. You can have that and just compare. So I'll do that again for you today. Yeah, we can have a look at things wherever we're at next week.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. Really appreciate it.
Alrighty, man. No worries. Hope you have a good night as well. And any questions, you just let me know.
All right. Thank you.
Perfect, Alan. Alrighty, man. Take it easy, bro, and see you next time.
See you next time. Bye bye.
Thanks, Alan. Good night, man. Bye. Bye.
Wow, that was like packed with information. I won't have time to do another lap, even though I want to. But I have to get like 3 laps just to get the tires to temp, and then it's already like midnight. So here's what we're gonna do now. We're gonna close the stream. I really like these sessions. So every Thursday we have these coaching sessions. They start 11 p.m. Eastern. So you guys, if you like it, make sure you join us. Next Thursday we're gonna have it again, and like just every week. Tomorrow I might be here a little bit earlier because I don't have more races in this week. So maybe about like 9 p.m. Then we can have 3 races. And yeah. Other than this, I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for joining.